Bam!
Okay.
I think we're live.
Right.
Happening. How you doing, everyone? Can you hear us loud and clear? Are we live? Do we have audio? Do we have video? Can you hear us, chat?
I wonder how long the latency is.
Aye, says someone. Yep. All right, we're live.
Good then.
Awesome. Excellent. Welcome. Another month has flown past.
Indeed, has it not?
It has. Tempus fugit. Damn, already the end of March.
Indeed.
Shit is truly crazy. And yeah, we have another stream. Glad that you could be with us, Loftar.
Isn't that so?
What is this? This is like the fourth stream in a row that you're with us now.
Yes, it's beginning to it's a bit up there.
Yeah, taking its toll.
Indeed.
Yeah. This man works hard for you, I'll have you know. So, how's the client coming?
Good question, I guess. I finally got started on it again after the launcher issue and other reset stuff.
Right on. We had to figure out the new launcher because Java were being very Irish.
Indeed. Or being quite dickish.
Yes, they should truly show their Gaelic spirit.
But it seems to be working fine at least.
Yep, we have a new launcher. I'm pretty happy about that, right?
Yeah, I'm very happy about not being in the certificate protection racket anymore.
Exactly.
That's quite nice.
We escaped from the plantation.
Indeed. That being said, there are perhaps things that could be improved about it, like certain UI aspects and stuff, and I'm sure we'll be right on that.
Yeah, any day now, right?
Yep.
That's nice. Well, at least we have a new launcher. That's pretty good. We can push. We can
finally push client updates again.
Yep, we can push client update. That's pretty clutch, actually.
Yep.
I would have to say. And the reason we did that first was because you could never push the client change if
we didn't have a launcher. Indeed.
So
it'd be kind of pointless to have a new client without a way to run it.
Exactly. So we had to sort that business first. But now that business is sorted, so you're back on the client rendering rewrite.
Indeed. Not to mention, I think there are a few client updates that we have wanted to push now, and I can't remember them right offhand, but
exactly, some stuff we have talked about where we've been like, oh no, we can't do that because fucking client can't be updated. But now we can update the client again, so that's good.
Yep.
So we're gonna push a patch tonight as well.
Yes, indeed.
Indeed, we are. Are we just quite simply gonna force ahead with that, or go ahead with that? And just hashtag do it.
I figure there's no reason to wait, is there?
No reason to delay it. Let's do it, quite simply.
Don't delay a patch today.
Exactly. Patch the shit out of that. Agent H Granger says, sound sucks, please fix. So he says. Right?
Okay. Sucks.
Sucks how? Can you confirm? We had a discussion about this.
I'll just wall the server then.
Feel free to wall the server, sir.
Server is walled.
The server hath been walled. We had a discussion about the sound. Big John UK says siege mechanics when? We're going to discuss siege mechanics momentarily, sir.
Indeed. Yeah.
So
part of the reason this isn't a huge patch is because we spent quite a bit of time discussing siege mechanics.
Exactly. Yeah. Mention on the server message that there is a stream. He says.
Right.
So feel free to do that. Might be a good idea to get some more nerds into the chat. Got 71 watching right now. Yes, exactly. We spent a fair amount of time discussing the siege system ourselves on Monday.
Indeed.
Which is a fairly involved topic. You can spend quite a lot of time debating that back and forth.
Indeed, but we have an entirely new idea now, so we're out with the old and with the new.
Exactly. Forget everything we recently posted about. We have a new idea. There's a new kid on the block. And I honestly think this idea is probably better than any idea we've had.
If it works out, I'm going to be really happy with it.
Exactly.
That for several reasons.
Yeah. That being said, there are many ways that this could be completely broken and busted.
Indeed. But I hope it won't turn out that way.
Yep. El Chupac asks, will you rework quests and credo quests? And I would have to ask the counter question, how would you like it reworked, sir?
Indeed.
So I moved the mic a little closer to us, and he complains about a fan. Sound is muffled and some fan too close to the mic.
Well, there are a few computers in here,
there are a few computers in here, and it's pretty warm in here as well. So pretty hot in here. It's pretty hot in here.
Oh, it's pretty hot in here.
Damn, dog.
Spaghetti 2 is straight until it gets hot and wet.
I know, right? Hot and wet.
Hot and wet.
Right on. So we're walling the server right now.
Indeed.
How are we doing with that?
I didn't actually take note of when I first started doing that.
Oops. Sure. I'll log in to see if I get any cool messages. Maybe I should just post the thing, right?
Yes, it's shutting down right now.
Excellent. Let me know when we have when you've synced the resources, and I will post to you.
Right.
And feel free to dilly dolly out the hats as well.
Indeed.
Miklosher asks, will we be able to grind crab shells into chitin? Also more uses for the chitin stuff itself. Yes, we will. He asked about chitin. Yes, you'll probably at least.
Well, not with this patch though.
No, not with this patch, but eventually down the line.
Sure, certainly.
I hate you guys, you ruined my life. probably because of the new job we gave him.
There, I've synced the resources.
He has synced the resources. That is excellent. Glory Movie says, I love you guys. Best game ever. Thank you. That's
Thank you very much.
Umoy says, what are monoliths for? They are for kingdoms. I suspect that has been discovered by now. So.
What are what for?
Monoliths.
Oh, monoliths, indeed. I would assume that has been discovered.
Digzall says, any hint of base food event point calculation algorithm? He's been on me about variable ingredients and recipes and asking about the algorithm.
Oh, right. I also got the PM about that, but I thought I responded to him, so I thought we'd be over that.
Okay. So
I said I won't hand him the solution.
You said you won't hand him the solution.
Indeed.
Exactly. That's good. Good boy. Good boy. Hey guys, happy to be able to catch you, my friends, and I thank you deeply for your game and time and all those adventures. You're the best. Love from France. Merci, monsieur, mademoiselle. Thank you. That's very, very awfully kind of you. All right, fair. Implement any sort of gamer rise up emote. I don't know what a gamer rise up emote is, but if you send me a picture,
we'll consider.
Yeah, we'll consider. What about Irminsul? What are they for? They are for kingdom as well. So I can post this now, right?
Yes.
Yes. Then I shall. So there we are. Let me just change that to a sticky one and go back and be sticky. The rhyme of the ancient sea. Now add crawfish for freshwater crab potting. I wanted to do that, so that's already on my mental radar a little bit. I had half a mind to add it with this patch, but that did not materialize. Fork Wizard says also, thanks for giving us updates every week. Been playing since 2010. You guys are great. Thank you. Thank you much. That's awfully kind of you. So Aurelia says, thank you, Lorb and Jorb for an amazing game. It's addictive. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for playing and for caring.
I'm not really sure addictive is a positive term.
No, I'm not sure about that.
Games and books and stuff.
I'm quite generally not, positive that a career as a computer game developer is to the benefit of mankind. I entertain some doubts about that, actually. Maybe that's because I'm slightly older. Your thoughts on Article 13? Is that the new EU ship?
Yeah, it is. It's really.
I hate the.
It's really the EU.
Yeah, it is the EU. It is the EU as I know and love it. It's just awful. I can't even. My wise overlords can't even into internet. It's effing embarrassing. I honestly don't understand why the media houses are so.
The server.
Feel free to. I don't understand why the big media houses are so in line with this, why they seem to think this is such a great idea with the link tax and everything.
Indeed. One would think that it just causes less links to them.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm not going to link to, the dinosaur
perhaps they
media.
imagine the links that remain will bring them more profit than, ad blocking visitors.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, woe is me, I can't link to the nasty liberal rags that, the dominant yellow journalism press of the country. Oh no, whatever will I do?
And I really wonder how they imagine that to work. I mean, if I don't use Facebook, so that wouldn't be me, but if someone posts a link to such a newspaper on Facebook, then would they be paying the link tax for that via Facebook or what? Or would the link be censored automatically, or how do they even imagine that would work?
I have no idea. I'm glad.
But arguably the upload filters are the worst.
Yeah, that's pretty egregious, and that is that I understand more, because that is about forcing you and me into the digital ghetto.
Yeah, and
because what they want to do with that is just basically make it so that no one can ever start a competing Facebook, or no one can ever start a competing YouTube, or file video upload channel or anything, because you need the effing EU upload shit filter.
So it's not very hard to imagine why Google and Facebook would be on that train.
Exactly. I could see why they would like this. So fuck those guys, basically.
Yep.
And I assume we are already hot on the track of implementing an upload filter.
Of course, I have an upload filter for the Haven forums.
Exactly. We've been losing sleep over this. There will be no links from the Haven forums. You won't be able to link, and all memes are banned, and you can't post videos. And no, I don't think that's how it's going to go down. So it's going to be interesting to see what the enforcement on this actually is.
That being said, I'm not really sure this vote was to actually implement it. It sounded to me in the articles I read that this was like a vote to whether it should be changed, whether the draft should be changed further or something.
Right. Well, I have no idea.
That's the impression I got. So with some luck, it might still be voted down in the final.
Let's hope so. But I think this was the final vote, though, because everyone was really despondent about it, and everyone was like, "Oh no, the internet is dead." And
yeah, but that could be the usual media cycle on the other end.
Yeah, I have no idea. And you also the case with okay, so they decide this law and then nothing changes, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like the GDPR.
Yeah,
to no one's surprise, all that happened is that I now get shown more banners.
Yeah, it's kind of the same with the retarded cookie laws. Oh, this website uses cookies. Are you willing to accept this standard base?
That every website does.
Yeah, every website since the 90s has used this, and
it's
pretty retarded.
It's pretty stupid. I do have a bit of a cold, by the way, just in case you're wondering.
And has a cold. He's working hard for you, boys and girls. He has a cold, yet he is showing up for work anyway. It's amazing.
You know
it. Right on. So thank you, whoever got us started down the political track. That's always fun when that happens.
Isn't it? They're telling you to get back to the microphone, by the way.
Sorry. So there were a million questions blazing past there. We have 251 dorks watching. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, the final vote has gone through and it passed because fuck 5 million signatures on the biggest petition ever and thousands upon thousands of demonstrants. Yeah, that's democracy for you. Well, anyway, let's get back to Haven. Any thought about making salt water way more useful? What would make it way more useful?
Well, I mean, you know, it's not like we couldn't make a spice out of salt or something. I wouldn't hate that per se.
That's true. I don't hate that idea. That we would have to rework the salt crystals in one way or another.
But I imagine those would be like artisan sea salt crystals instead.
Yeah, exactly. The finest Himalayan sea salt.
Exactly. That being said, it might not hurt to be able to use them as spices as well.
True. But
not that anyone would do that.
Not that anyone would do that.
But, you know, as a noob trap.
That's always fun with noob traps. It was the best thing in Salem where you could pick up the singing old log and then you could split it accidentally.
Oh, right.
Classic noob trap.
Oh, right, yes. That was a really nice implementation.
Particularly strong C-type implementation. And I believe like choice number 1 was probably to split it.
Indeed, of course.
It's pretty strong. Set of 3. No, I didn't see your question there. Let's see. Whoa, guys, slow down. Have you guys considered any more on the topic of satiation removal? No, can't say we have.
Satiation removal? You mean hunger removal?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, we'd remove hunger, I suppose.
Well, I mean, I should at least say that if there is anything that has been blocking that up until now, it has been the lack of a launcher, the lack of being able to.
Right. We couldn't actually do anything about that. I should probably add the little.
That being said, still unsure about that though. I mean, in particular, you know, you have to realize that if we do remove the hunger meter, then that would make that part of the character sheet just asymmetrical.
That is true, and
that is a bit of a problem.
It is actually. So I'm thinking either the Centurion's helm or the Conquistador's helm needs to go from the store. Which one should go? Chat, which hat should go? Dulak says, can you spoil us about the new siege mechanics you have been reworking? Yes, we're going to spoil you about that momentarily.
As soon as we decide on the hat to go. One could argue that the Valentine's top is seasonal, it should be removed.
True that. That allows us to keep the $15 hats in the store.
Right.
Wicked profits. Think about those. Freya Mistwalker asks, are you going to offer a new blue style wood? I would, but not outside of a world reset. That's
blue style wood? Are there enough of them by now?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. Like you can have the whole.
I mean, I don't imagine that every other tree should be blue.
You're crazy, sir. You are crazy. So what do we say? The Valentine's top needs to go. We need to duplicate that, and we need to introduce the Pirate's bandana instead. And Pirate's bandana. And we need to copy pasta the nice little text that I wrote. Yar, matey.
Oh, and name the file hat Pirate's bandana.
Smart lad. Awfully smart lad. And then I can simply remove this. And remove this. And we should have a new hat in the store. Boom! Boom! There we go. Oh. Boom! There we go. Excellent. Zented69 says, serious question, can you remove the horrible white lines from the minimap color of basalt? I mean, please, man, please. I can probably do that, what? Yes.
Horrible white lines of what?
I used the... This question is beyond use. You wouldn't understand.
Not particularly important, you mean?
You know that the stone textures are divided by like little white lines, as from like on the paving textures when you pave with stones.
You mean the mortar?
Yeah, there are like mortar lines or whatever in the stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And I use that texture for the minimap.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like that. He wants a
Right,
solid
yeah,
black.
sure. I've heard that. I guess I heard that argument. I guess.
That's the sound of shekels flowing to us. So someone here is suggesting freshwater lobsters. So why not? Please remove the texture from all pavement when rendered on the mini-map, says H&H Granger.
Well, I mean, you know, this does depend on what you actually intend to achieve with the minimap textures. There is a case to be made that the minimap isn't just for, you know, MS Paint.
You're crazy.
But sure.
What is Pearl Diver seal thing in your patch? I don't remember. There was someone. It's a PM. I don't want to show the PM, but it's someone complaining about some aspect of having to hunt seals when doing the Pearl Diver Credo quest.
Because they don't want seal finger.
No, it wasn't that. It was I don't remember if it was the frequency of the quest type or something. I don't remember. It was something. Any plans to change tree bush stunting mechanics, as in make it so it only slows the tree bush rather than permanently
Yeah.
That's probably a good idea.
I mean, we've discussed this several times. I don't really know what has held us back, because, you know, I think we're pretty in conclusion that tree stunting does kind of suck.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that actually. Just remove it, or at least just make it so that they're slower or something, or let's make it less. Let's make it a lesser deal.
I mean, I don't know. Perhaps the wild spawn trees should still stunt. I'm not sure if that's important either, though.
Perhaps it can be fun to find them at variable growth stages in the forest, but I mean you do that anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ike Dragon asks, would you ever consider removing sketches from Knar recipe and make it so you apply it after being built? The same could be applied to village banners as well.
This has been Jorb's argument from the beginning.
I have been bringing this up several times, so you'd have to talk to this guy.
I think, in general, that, you know, if you don't have to plan when building stuff, you know, what's the point? Why is this not just Minecraft then?
Then again, I mean, who gets harmed? I mean, we sell more sketches. They get to, you know, they don't have to rebuild the entire damn boat just to change the sails.
Yeah, but isn't there a case to be made for scarcity also?
Hey, isn't there a case to be made that with an actual boat you could take the sails off and put up new sails?
Well, I mean, perhaps, but then at least you should have to spend the remaining cloth then.
You're such a fascist. You're such a fascist. God damn it. Oh, I'm trying. So you see what I'm up against.
Well, I mean, why don't you just make it so you can carry houses too then?
Yeah, exactly. Why have any rules when I'm suggesting this complete anarchy anyway? Why keep any rules?
You see what I'm up against.
So basically, I'm basically advocating for the removal of all structure in the game anyway.
Indeed.
So.
That's what I'm saying.
Should we get into the meat and potatoes of discussing the siege system?
I guess there is nothing holding us up unless we have some interesting questions to answer.
Not really. Not much. Not really. Not really. It's not much going on here. Truth be told, there's a brain trust gathered here in the chat tonight. Oops! I accidentally unbuttoned. Please send super chats and bitcoins to see more. We strip stream now. Let's see. Right on. So, right on. Right on. So we have a new idea for the
So
siege
what
system.
should we post the thread or?
Let us. We'll post it and we'll go through it and we'll talk about it.
Sure, I guess that makes sense.
That sounds good, right?
Sure.
I hope you're up for it, chat. We'll do it. So I'll just hop over to it. This is very raw, so I'm just going to post it as it is, and if we find any problems, we can correct that later. So this is just very, very raw. So there's a thread in the Critique and Ideas forums called New Siege Implementation Siege Chess. Okay, so basically the gist of it is we're going to go through these points. You can see the bullet points yourself. You can go read
the core
thread.
idea is this: only siege machines can harm siege machines.
That is the basic idea, yeah. Only siege machines can harm other siege machines. We know this has some problems in terms of, you can build a battering ram before a wall, to close off a gate or whatever, but we can fix those problems. Those problems are minor. We don't need to concern ourselves with those now. So the basic gist of it is that only siege machines can break other siege machines. The second point is that we change it so that only battering rams can now destroy walls. Catapults can't destroy walls anymore.
Indeed, yes.
Third important point is that we introduce a new siege machine, which is purely defensive.
Indeed, which isn't really a siege machine
Exactly.
so much as it is a defensive structure, quite simply.
Exactly, and it's an archery tower.
Yes.
And the archery tower, or that's at least the tentative name we're using for it. The archery tower can defend and can be set to auto fire at incoming siege machines.
Yeah.
Okay, so the basic scenario that we're envisioning here is that you build a ram, you're attacking me, you build a ram.
Yep.
And obviously then you would have to roll the ram up to my walls in order to attack my compound.
Indeed.
And we still have rules in place. The timing and everything is a little bit fuzzy on this. We haven't decided on the exact details.
Indeed, but basically the siege machines, like the battering ram in particular, have to charge up sometime before they can attack.
Exactly. So I, the defender, get an advanced warning still. It still works very much as it does right now.
Yes.
I get an advanced warning of 24 hours.
They can probably move immediately though.
Presumably, but they still have restrictions in place to prevent them from moving. They can only move so far in a certain amount of time.
We imagine something like they can only move they can only move so far, and when they have to wait like an hour or something before they can move again.
Exactly, and so the basic scenario, I've outlined this in the post as well, is that you build a ram to attack me, and I can then kind of nullify your ram effort by simply building an archery tower. And that's really, as the defender, defending against only a ram, that would be pretty much all that's required of me.
Indeed.
Because the archery tower would presumably then stop the ram in its tracks.
Indeed.
But you, the attacker, can build catapults.
Indeed.
And catapults have a longer range than archery towers. So catapults beat archery towers.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, so you build catapults now to take out my advanced archery towers. We will pretend that I built them up against my own wall on the inside of it. Okay, so you build catapults and you take out my archery tower. Okay, so I can now presumably you could roll your ram closer to the wall.
Yes, indeed.
I have the option of building new archery towers further into my compound,
Indeed.
which are now out of range of your farthest catapults.
Yep.
Which would force you to either move your catapults forward, presumably exposing them to rebuilt archery towers from me,
Indeed.
or you could build new catapults and attempt to secure the entire distance basically between the center of my village and the farthest reaches of it.
Yeah, indeed. Then somewhere along the line, different strategies might perhaps come into play.
Exactly, and because at that point,
and also at some point it probably kind of becomes a battle of attrition between somewhat similar parts.
Question here: what's to stop people from pre-building a million archery towers? All siege engines have an expiry date.
Indeed.
So all siege engines,
if they aren't maintained, they will destroy themselves.
Exactly.
In time.
Exactly.
The exact times are quite under debate.
Yeah,
but something like 48 hours or something.
Yeah, we've suggested times in the post. You can think what you will of that.
So if you want to pre-build a million archery towers, then you have to rebuild all those million archery towers every other day or so.
Exactly. So that would probably be.
And
And you wouldn't have any real gain from it
Indeed.
either. Like, you're not buying yourself much time or anything by doing this.
Indeed.
So I'm not sure there's much point to that.
Indeed.
So yeah, that's the basic idea, and the beauty of this. The beauty of this would be. So what would be the counter to offensive catapults? Other catapults, presumably.
Yeah, other catapults, presumably.
If the attacker is so determined that he is willing to build several new catapults, basically securing the entire distance that the ram has to move up to the walls, then at that point you, the defender, would have to build your own catapults in defense.
Indeed.
So, and the beauty of this is, we feel that it could potentially allow for a lot of play and counterplay.
Yeah, exactly.
Hence the chess analogy. And the other thing we feel it has going for it is that it completely bypasses and ignores claims.
Indeed.
Because what we've felt with our previous siege implementations is that claims fuck it up all the time for us.
Indeed, it creates weird incentives to have layered villages and multiple villages and 15p claims and ready p claims to extend at the moment's notice and whatnot.
Yeah.
So the less siege can have to do with claims, the better.
Exactly. Rujoringer asks, nobody fight for local resources. Most cunny build palisade all around any given resource, allowing them only them to pick it. Can you fix that? Well, that is why we're considering siege.
Exactly. I mean, under this implementation, it would presumably be easier to reclaim these walled-off resources.
Yep, exactly. Omnipotent O says, yeah, I have to agree with H&H Granger. There's a huge advantage for people who walled their brimstone. That could potentially be a thing.
That could perhaps be a thing. I don't know. I haven't checked that out so much this world, but I mean, in the last world, I had no problem finding brimstone.
Yeah, no, me neither. I found plenty this world. It might be that walling them in is more of a thing now, and it might be that I think that argument could be true, but I think we could also adapt to that rather. We have counter strategies.
In particular, mostly. I mean, unless you're really unless you're defending against a quite determined attacker, the brimstone onus is mostly on the attacker.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the points here being that archery towers do not cost brimstone.
Exactly, that's important to note here, is that archery towers do not cost brimstone, so you don't have to have brimstone
to defend against a not totally determined attacker.
Exactly.
Who's going to build 20 catapults or something.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, Zented69 says, what about some sort of sapping skill that could be expensive on LP to buy, like a siegecraft that allows players to do some limited damage to siege engines or walls, or maybe just make them weaker so defenders with limited...
Yeah, we've discussed that. It
that
also says in the thread.
There we have an optional point in the thread about that.
We hadn't put it behind the skill. That could be an idea, but
yeah.
But basically we consider as an option that it might be possible to damage siege engines by hand as well, only slowly, like. Some perhaps they have 10 lives or something, and taking a life from them takes like 15 minutes or something.
Yeah. Exactly. So
something like that.
And I think it's important to note also that the onus very much is on the attacker generally. Like the attacker is the one who has to take all most at least of the initiative in terms of like advancing the siege.
Yeah.
As the defender, you really ideally you mostly have to build new archery towers, and I think you can probably make it very costly to invade any base by simply spamming new archery towers.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and maybe that's a problem. Maybe it's too easy to spam archery towers. Maybe we'd have to do something about that. I don't know. I'm very much...
The point being that catapults can generally overpower archery towers, somewhat at least, but they are obviously a lot more expensive too.
Exactly. So if you really want to get in, and if you have the resources, it should at least theoretically be kind of possible to get in. So, Does archery tower range be affected by quality? No, that was not.
Not by quality, but it is the intention that that the ranges of archery towers and catapults do still be somewhat randomized as they currently are.
Yeah.
Though the catapult ranges should be somewhat larger than archery tower ranges.
Yeah. Agrevol is spamming. Let us plant lingonberries, dill, etc. in a pot. Dill, I believe you can plant in a pot. That was the whole idea behind dill. If you can't plant dill in a pot, that's a bug.
Certainly be the case.
But lingonberries, I don't think you should be able to plant in a pot.
Dill should be potable.
No. Okay, so dill is potable.
Yep.
Dill confirmed for potable. Mighty Sheep says, more importantly, when are eggplants going to be implemented? That is the question. Geez, here I've been thinking about Siege when
when there could be eggplants.
Exactly, completely missing the real question. Dakan says, we were able to plant dill last world. I don't know if something has changed. No, nothing has changed.
Indeed.
Can wrecking balls still break walls? Yes.
Yes.
Can archery towers catapult?
But I do also reckon that wrecking balls can also be destroyed by hand.
Yeah. Yeah. So wrecking balls are really the poor man's option, so to speak.
Exactly. Wrecking balls are not in the class of siege engines.
Exactly. They're intended as wrecking balls.
that being said, if the system actually does work out, that might perhaps leave some room for expanding on the arsenal of siege engines.
Exactly, and that's another thing that I find appealing about the general gist of this idea is that we could presumably, if it works out at all, there could be some space. I feel like one, it makes there's some space to differentiate walls in it. Mm-hmm. There's some space to differentiate defensive siege structures. There's some space.
I mean, mind you, to begin with, given that only battering rams can destroy walls, that's a differentiation between the walls to begin with, given their different soaks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perhaps not all that meaningful, but it's something for sure.
Yeah. So, let's see. Is there anything to stop me from guarding a wrecking ball 24 hours and ignore all this siege stuff?
No, you could do that if you can defend the wrecking ball against the defenders. You could.
Yeah, but
you have to realize that a defender can just build an archery tower on the inside and take it out.
I mean, presumably an archery tower can take out a wrecking ball.
I'd imagine so.
Yeah. So yeah, there are things to stop you from simply bypassing all that. So. And another point is that you wouldn't have to slavishly defend the siege engines because they can't be destroyed by hand necessarily, or at least
exactly. That's
at least there's a very intended mechanic in place to kind of guard.
I mean, basically, if you have, I don't think we mentioned it on the stream now, but one of the ideas being that a newly built siege engine can't attack another siege engine until like 1 or 2 hours have passed.
Yeah.
So the point being that if you are at the scene and there are no siege engines available to attack you, then you can log off for an hour before that happens.
Yeah. So there's yeah, pretty much. What about permissions and siege to be toggled off? In previous version, it started with the damage dealt to the wall. What about this current system? Permissions. What archery towers will do if I build a ram on my own claim? Good question. Exactly how archery towers.
I imagine that archery towers would have to be told to auto fire to begin with.
Exactly. So you could probably turn them off.
And perhaps there might even be some interface for it to prioritize certain specific siege engines.
Yeah. Also, do note that the way we envision it, at least, you wouldn't have archery towers on your base in times of peace, really.
Yeah, that too.
I mean, so if you're building a ram, there wouldn't be any archery towers there to fire at it. So.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Not sure how that's. So tamed mammoths as a siege engine countered by tamed wolves definitely being implemented, right? I mean, I would imagine so. Like I suggested this when we talked about it.
I mean, I don't mind the idea of tamed mammoths as siege engines. The only thing I might perhaps object is that it feels kind of strange that mammoths, being live and dynamic animals, would be forced into this slow chess game.
Yeah, I think you could justify that. I mean, a wizard.
Perhaps
they need to. They need to sit down in siege mode, sit down on their ass and fold out their trunk, if you know what I mean. Right?
Raising the level.
Exactly. That's what I do. That bring the A game to the stream tonight. So yeah, that's the basic idea, boys and girls. Let us know in the thread what you feel about it. Let us have it. I'm pretty excited. If it works out, if we can make it work, I think it could be pretty fun.
Yeah, exactly. If it actually does work out, I feel it might actually be a siege system I could be somewhat content with.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, poke some holes in that and let us have it. Basically, let us fucking effing have it. Yeah, and we added lobsters, by the way. I'm not sure if we talked much about that, but we did. There were lobsters added, so there's lobsters now.
We did mention, at least we talked about crayfish.
Yeah, we talked about crayfish. That's true. If the goal is to make it so that you don't have to defend your siege engine 24/7, shouldn't you make it so that siege engines can't be attacked for around 12 hours, or make it so you can roll them further? Well, I mean, that's pretty much what we've done, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You can't attack them, essentially, at least.
Exactly. You have to build your own siege engines.
So that's half
which
the
have
point.
a wait time before they can attack. So
exactly. And also note that when you're building your first siege engine, it's presumably out of range from the defender.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he could sally forth and build an archery tower on the outside.
Yeah.
But so you might have to be there to defend against that to some extent.
But nevertheless, there's still some time. I mean, you don't. The point being that you don't have to be logged in constantly and watch it.
Yeah.
If you log in once an hour, that should basically be enough.
Yeah. Yep. So. Yeah, pretty much. So let us know what you think about that. I think, it could presumably for like a big siege where everyone is active and everyone really cares about it. I think it could be fun. Like you could build catapults back and forth and move them forward and basically play.
Indeed, and I think that's kind of part of the point too. That the waiting periods of the current and previous siege systems has been really quite passive.
Yeah.
Whereas under this system there would be kind of a dynamic game going on meanwhile.
Yep. Did you distribute the hats? Asks.
I did.
Yes. Agent H. Granger. He did. So yeah. Tolt asks what would be the building cost for the archery tower. Not sure about that yet, but like some cloth and some wood, I would assume.
Yeah, and perhaps some rope and bone glue and
the usual suspects.
A bit of horn leather, perhaps. And of course, they would need actual arrows too.
Yeah.
Not sure if they might require their own kind of arrow.
Will archer hearthlings be able to shoot out of them over walls?
Up for debate, I think.
Yeah. Lexard 2012 asks, did you even try to raid someone? No, I have not tried to raid anyone. So it's not how I play the game, at least.
Indeed.
Just make Palabash back. It's gonna be best.
That doesn't sound like the best to me.
Don't think we'll be doing that now. Yeah. So that's that. Now we worked pretty hard on that. So please don't hate it too much. Please say it's a good idea. Please say we should do this. Please. Hashtag please.
To be sure, it would be nice if it actually works out.
Yeah. It would. There are obviously more details than I can even imagine that would need to be like fleshed out. Like so the lag is pretty bad when we.
Yeah, it always is when we restart.
What's up with that, bro?
Yeah, I still suspect that being related to the trim issue. I'm not sure.
The trim issue, you say?
I'm pretty sure I've spoken to you about this, about SSDs and trim operations and reserve space and.
Right. may ring some sort of a bell. Dilla X says, shows your base now. No. Vulex says, it is not joke. Simply, we are tired. We want fun. Yeah, we all want fun. We're all tired, bro. Yeah, Thought says, what's the current stand on quests? What's the question there? I'm not sure. What do you...
Indeed, what's the question to begin with?
What are you curious about there? Omnipotent O asks, any plans to make walls that are made around natural resources bashable by hand? No immediate
Not really,
fines.
I think.
No, not really. No. I mean, it's ugly that they're claimed that way, but
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I do wonder how big of a problem this is in reality. Last World, I bashed a number of such worlds with wrecking balls.
sure. I don't know. Right. I mean, there's considering quest mechanics in the past. Yeah, maybe that was. We had a lot of complaints about the quests. We had a lot of complaints, especially early world, I think, about people who felt that they had to grind the quests all day, every day, and that there were no time gates at all to allow them any breaks or whatever. So I guess whoa,
Indeed. What?
that was the lag spike from hell. Jesus Christ, man.
That's weird, though.
That's weird. But so Paper Bullet says you still have to grind quests. That is still a thing. So yeah, I don't know. What is the current stance on that? How do you feel about it? We discussed adding time gates to it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the problem is that, as always, that if we nerf quests now, then no one will be happy with that either, because now no one can catch up.
Yeah, there's that argument. Like, if we nerf quests now, how would you feel about that? Do you want us to do that? Like, should we nerf them now? Like, there's the fairness argument to consider. I mean, we're still pretty early in the world, so maybe it doesn't matter, but. And how much should they be nerfed? Like, how many quests should you be able to run? Etc. etc. So there are some questions there. Yes, nerf, says Digzal. And to be clear, then what we would do is to implement some sort of time gate so that you can.
Yeah, that's what I imagine at least.
You can only run X number of quests per.
Or something like that. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what, but.
You got tired immediately.
No, I mean, it's just not entirely obvious exactly what the
I know.
limitation would be, but
yeah.
I mean, there could even be some kind of case to be made to limit the amount of quest points you can gain per day or something like that, but that's also kind of weird and strange.
So that at some point you could continue running quests, but it wouldn't give you anything. Or?
Yeah, I don't even know.
And there's you should also arguably be able to buffer it somewhat, so that if you're only playing on the weekends, but you grind really hard on the weekends, then you shouldn't be subject to the daily.
Your daily cap or something like that. Yes.
Yeah, you should be able to buffer it a little bit, at least, so you can choose your own time of playing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but we'd have to think a little bit about the exact implementation there. But maybe that's a good idea. If you want us to do that, I'm entirely open.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't get the rage of can catch up, then I wouldn't mind that at all.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm very open to that change if that is what you the community want. And time gates for quest givers is better than time gates for characters. Like, each spirit can give you X quests per day. That's interesting, at least.
That's interesting. Really? Is that better?
He claims it is. Leprechaun's Pot claims it is. I have it on good authority from a man named Leprechaun's Pot on the internet.
It is an interesting idea, though.
It is an interesting idea.
Necessarily mind that, perhaps. But I mean, I would assume it would have to be a cap per quest giver and character, so that I can just exhaust this quest giver.
Of course, definitely. Definitely. Any more beverages like cider, honey-brew, distilled spirits? Sure. I mean, there's no reason not to add them now, right?
Yeah, I think so.
We could do that. We should do that. We should do mead. There should be mead and roaring fires, meat off the bone.
Not sure how drinks are working out now. I mean, I do figure people should be using them by now.
Yep. Kirsha T says, you still gonna make that boat in between Robo and Knorr, dog? You still gonna make it, dog? You gonna make it? You gonna make my boat? Yes, I'm gonna make your boat. I'm working on it, actually.
I thought you were saying that there's a case to be made not to devalue the Knorr, though.
There is a case to be made not to devalue the Knorr, but I think it would be. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on where it could go, but I also think there's still space for other boats, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree, but then again, I mean, what would really be the meaningful differentiation? I might perhaps argue. I might perhaps wonder, in what way is this?
I was imagining perhaps.
I mean, if it just takes fewer passengers, is that like a really meaningful?
I was imagining smaller and faster.
And faster, you say?
Yes.
But the precedent thus far has been the other way around. That bigger boats are faster.
Sure, but I mean, it's easy to imagine a small, agile boat.
It certainly is, but then again, why aren't rowboats faster?
Because they're rowed mechanically. This is a sailboat.
But what if there's no wind then?
Well, true that.
Indeed.
But the Knarrs always have wind in their sails.
Indeed, they do.
You should need to catch some wind and build...
wind catchers.
Exactly. Make wind catchers great again.
Indeed.
Yeah, Towards asks, to counter a siege, you will have to buy rage to have siegecraft? No, I wouldn't imagine that you would have to buy rage to build an archery tower, right?
Yeah, no, definitely not. I would imagine archery towers would depend on yeomanry or something.
LOL at wind catchers, says Sabinote. Wind catchers are awesome.
Never forget, though.
Never forget, yeah. Also the case to be made that I hate removing content from the game, right? Like, once implemented, it stays implemented, right?
Indeed.
They were fun though, when you could build them and, like, you know, set off little mini explosions of wind catchers on people's bases and stuff.
I think the funness of that can be and was debated, but yeah.
It's special, at least. The wind bombs, those were good times. Back in like 2010.
2009 though.
Yeah, even that, yeah. Those were removed from Legacy as well, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, we removed them. Yeah, of course we did. Yeah. Why didn't we re-add winds as curios in Legacy?
Good question, perhaps. Just wasn't at that point, I guess.
We should re-add wind catching.
Yeah, then again, I mean, that's the specific wind catching mechanic was perhaps somewhat debatable. I mean, in particular, the fact that they only spawned when you actually ran over the heath and stuff was kind of weird.
Arguably, I mean, I thought it added a little bit to the heath terrain. Maybe.
Yeah, sure. I'm just saying that the specific spawning mechanic was kind of strange.
Yeah.
Then again, implementing something like that would be relevant to also implementing the waves and stuff for the oceans.
Yep, and we want to do waves for oceans.
Yep.
So, Ike Dragon asks, silk farming trays like cheese, when? So, I think he wants like some sort of tray where he can just auto-feed the maggots or something.
I have heard this argument before, but I don't actually remember what the idea was.
I think they want some sort of structure. There's a picture like from China and that they've used in several threads where there's an actual like Chinese silk farming object thing.
Yeah, but what would the mechanic idea of it be?
I'm not entirely sure. So I suspect that it has to do with having to place fewer leaves and shit in regular containers, but I don't really know. What's the basic idea there? What is it designed to make easier? Basically, says Sabinot, the use of cupboards in silk farming seems dumb.
Why though?
Well, your mama seemed. Why does it?
Well, I mean, you know, generally speaking, I don't hate that there are mechanics that don't require their own special infrastructure and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that too. Fat Camp 90 asks, will you guys do so the sand flea bite can be cured by something or making so it can't get infected? Bro, have you Googled sand flea bites on the interwebs?
They're pretty nasty.
They can be pretty nasty, sir. Google that if you want some gross porn.
But there is some way to kill them.
Sabinata says that was the gist of the threads asking for it, not my personal opinion. Okay, so what's your personal
You can't
opinion?
treat sand flea bites with the arrow.
You can't treat sand flea bites with yarrow, for fuck's sake, or yarrow, I don't know how it's pronounced. For fuck's sake, come on. Getting so angry.
No.
No,
dear.
Take your medicine. Wow, yarrow, what a miracle plant. Ain't that the truth?
Ain't that the truth?
That is effing confirmed. Mammoth mounts, when? I remember when you said it would be real. I want it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, we should have.
Yeah.
Definitely, for sure. Awesome. Love you too, man. Catch you later, bro. No, I mean, mammoth mounts would be cool. It's on my list of
cool things.
Cool thing, like intermediate implementations. I'm just not entirely sure what they would do, I guess. Except being awesome and cool. I mean, I suspect that goes a pretty long way. I mean, they could carry a lot of junk for you, and they could be fun. You could ride around on them. I'm pretty stoked on mammoth mounts, actually. Not to mention, you could add add some. Arguably, if we're on the subject of taming, we should add dogs. Dogs.
Speaking of things with unclear mechanics.
Yeah, we should add chihuahuas and
poodles.
It would be fun if we added like a ton of various tameable.
Actually, now that I think about it, what do you call it, tax in English? I don't think
terrier.
it's tax.
It's terrier, right?
Oh, it is.
I think so.
Really? Oh.
Yep. Armed war mammoth, yeah, with a howdah on top. I don't know how that's pronounced either, but what you call those platforms.
Wouldn't that be an elephant?
It should be an elephant. Yeah, it's true. We should tame into elephants. What about horse archery? What about it? You can.
Yeah. What about it?
What about it? Yep. Hunting dogs. They chase down running animals and slow stop them. Yeah, that could be fun. Or couldn't it? Am I just saying shit? Do you think it could be fun?
I do wonder if it could be fun at least.
As in, you're not sure it would be fun, or?
I don't know. Is that really the main use of dogs in combat and in hunting, to run down things that are faster than you? I don't think that's exactly how they work IRL.
No, I think you mostly use them for track.
Indeed.
And I think maybe you use them when you do I don't know what you call drevjakt in English, but when you you scare all the animals out of the bushes and basically funnel them into some designated area.
Perhaps, but I don't imagine this would be a mechanic in Haven.
No, that's true. But fix for the abused exploits to kill non-rage characters when. The exploits. I suspect he's referring to
sand fleas and
leeches.
Yeah, leeches indeed.
But is killing people with leeches still a thing?
Yeah, I would imagine so. Well, I mean, good question. Perhaps you can still teleport home.
Yeah.
And take the leeches off. I mean, you'd have to be pretty low on HHP before that's.
Yeah, I think it's more the cleave thing, like that they spam cleave and.
Perhaps. But I mean, the thing is, it's not exactly like the intention is that non-rage characters are immune to death. That's not the intention.
What is the intention? That they're less likely to die.
I'd say so.
Sounds cool. Can't you just make it so sand fleas do no damage to KO'd players? I don't. Is the sand flea thing a thing?
I mean, it wouldn't be particularly hard to make it so that caught sand flies don't do damage anymore.
No, well, that wouldn't be fun either. Isn't half the point that you can drop sand fleas in the middle of a village or whatever.
I know, is that actually fun?
Seems like fun to me.
I mean, how huge a problem are sand fleas really?
30-second advertisement says, yes, fleas are abusable.
Oh.
A man called 30-second advertisement on the internet says that sand fleas are abusable, so...
I wouldn't mind them. I wouldn't mind making them less abusable.
Goodness me. One sand flea bite do like 9 damage. Maybe. What is the use of sand fleas if not for murder?
Well, use and use. I mean, they're there and bite you when you walk on the beaches. Isn't that use enough?
From my horizon, that seems like a perfect use case for it. To annoy end users. To no end. To no end. Laser says, Pew says, we need catapults that can launch sand fleas inside bases. A big bag of sand fleas. Did you know that the Mongols used to throw sand fleas over?
I did not know that.
You were not aware. It's a good thing that we here on the History Channel can inform you about these facts of history, these true facts of history. Sand fleas hurt me more than boars. Feels weird. Yeah, feels weird, man. I have to agree with that part. It's the same thing. I lost more HP to ants than I have, and bees than I have to any big nasty animal like boars and stuff.
Well, I mean, while it is true that is perhaps that you should perhaps take more hard damage when you encounter a boar, I think there's a case to be made that in real life, you probably do lose more health to sand fleas and the midges than to boars.
Yeah, sure. Because one is obviously raiding more anthills than...
Yeah, exactly.
In real life, one raids more anthills than kills boars. Yeah, no, yeah. Yes, sure, Sherlock, but I still kind of think it's a little bit weird that, I mean, especially with a developed character, you have more reason to fear ants, really.
Yeah, sure. Sure, I agree, that's weird. I do agree that part is weird.
Yeah. So, how about we take a couple of months and redo combat?
Indeed.
Are you up for it?
I can't wait to do that.
I'm super excited.
I mean, doing another commentary work is just about time anyway, isn't it?
Yep. It's high time, actually. When was the last time we failed at that? It was like a year ago?
Yeah, I don't actually remember. Was it a year ago that we did that? Or was it 2 years ago?
Uncertain. It may have been 1 year ago.
I mean, we've done it so many times now that it's just a blur.
Yeah, it's just a blur to me.
We failed at it so many times by this stuff.
Yeah, it's not a joke, that one. Field Honor says, why raft cannot go into deep seas? Even Jack Sparrow had a raft of turtles and his hair to escape island. True, but that was Jack Sparrow.
But it did. It wasn't floating too well at the end of that journey, if I recall.
That's true too. You will forever remember this day that you almost caught.
Indeed.
We can't.
Well, I mean, let me put it like this: is that really a mechanic you want? That the rafts is the thing that you build across the oceans?
Yeah, day one of a new world.
Indeed.
Building rafts across oceans. No, I don't. That is what we had. This world, I'm fairly sure it would have been better without.
Indeed.
So not too psyched about that. Byron Demores asks, when the next meteorite? I don't actually know. The game determines that.
It's somewhat
we only turn them on.
But I think the general period is roughly once every 1 to 2 weeks.
So there you have it. I heard there was a pretty big serious fight for a meteor.
Yeah, indeed. It looked almost as if people were having fun.
Yep.
That was my impression, at least.
When gonna be fixed quest giver walling griefing? I don't really know. That's a big question. I don't really know what the question is there, actually. Are people griefing quest givers again?
I mean, right now I'm not really sure how much I care anyway. If people destroy quest givers, new ones are born in their stead.
No.
New ones are born in their stead. But But that being said, it might become a bigger problem in case we do this leveling quest givers thing.
Yeah. But at some point, I think the quest givers should be able to like defend themselves or be harder to remove, especially if they've been leveled up or whatever. If they've been developed significantly, I think they should. You know, the aura that they emanate should
perhaps
increase with their increased power. That would be another, like, I don't know, that could be another fun little venue of development. Like developing the quest giver system to actually try to improve on the quality of the quests generated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're pretty dumbass random right now, so I think it could be worthwhile trying to make them more interesting.
Indeed.
It's a pretty big topic, though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess generally speaking, you could say that we're kind of in the process of trying to decide the next big thing to do right now.
Yeah, pretty much. There's been some like firefighting to do, and we pushed some smaller patches, and the siege thing has distracted us a little bit as well.
Indeed.
So, but yeah, I think we're kind of gearing up to do something bigger.
Indeed. Question is just what?
Yeah.
And developing the siege system, the quest system has been one suggestion, and that.
Yeah. And another has been seasons,
Indeed.
Which is another thing that we're looking at doing.
Indeed.
And I think
that would be about time for sure.
Yeah, it would be fun actually. Like I think seasons could be a thing like oceans, when like okay, you know, you don't think it's going to add that much, so you hold off on doing it because you can't imagine how much it's going to add, and then when you add it, it adds more than you thought it would add. I think seasons could be that. I think seasons could add.
It is quite possible. I mean, it would be fun for sure to have more of a sense of time passing in the game.
Definitely.
That being said, I mean, there are some mechanics deriving from them that can't really be avoided, that I'm not sure is a positive thing. Like, you know, crops dying when all crops dying when it's winter. It's not obvious that's a good thing for.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe you could make it so that they just go into some dormant state and are snowed over or something.
Perhaps I guess that you could still harvest their seeds.
Harvest their seeds in spring. That wouldn't even be unreasonable, I don't think.
Perhaps.
So I think you could do stuff like that. New Credo images with bigger crotch bulges when? Asks Scuzzy.
With bigger what?
Crotch bulges.
I haven't even considered that there are crotch bulges on the current Credo images.
Of course there are.
But of course there are.
We've got a little bit of a thing going on there. Should do that one.
Well, many of the Credo images are pretty nice for sure. I think they're some of your best work.
No, thank you. It's awfully kind of you. One day when I have more time, I'm going to try to do some actual studies of anatomy and try to...
That will be the day.
That will be the day. I know, right? That's the joke. Zented69 says, when will we get a druid type credo to counter the Upia cave hermit credo? Yeah, that's a good one.
How would they? Oh right. Oh, I see. Yeah, that I don't hate that idea.
I have a whole druid series.
That being said, though, I mean there almost seems to be a case to be made there for having some credos being exclusive of each other.
Arguably, that's a radical call.
I know.
But yeah, I agree in principle. Okay, so we're gonna learn the will's power and heart magic, and we're gonna build a dream catcher. I almost had the idea to add another skill when we added lobster pots. To just add a skill like net catching.
I see.
It's just crazy. We haven't.
I mean, I don't know what to think about the skills really.
Yeah.
There is part of me that thinks that they could really be more.
Yeah.
It seems like you just breeze through most of them and not really think about them too much.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's just a chore learning them somewhat.
I've almost considered, I mean, not that I would actually want to implement this, but I have almost considered if not every skill should just have a few quests
Ouch.
associated with them.
Yeah. Presumably that can
Not necessarily even random quests, mind you.
That could presumably, yeah, that could be more fun. For sure. What do you think about that, chat? How do you feel about skills? We haven't added a new skill. We haven't touched the skill system in like ages.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that speaks for how meaningful we currently think it is.
Yeah, Tuat asks, will it be with seasons, so if it's winter in the north, south have summer?
No, I don't really imagine so.
No, I don't think so either.
Because that would imply a global size of the map,
Yeah.
with no possibility to extend it.
James 12 asks, mini games when producing metal cloth products when? When you think up a good mini game and PM that to me. I don't want the game to turn into puzzle pirates if that's the question, but I don't know what you mean by a mini game. Like,
but I mean, that being said,
game.
we have obviously been discussing for a long time that it would be fun with some kind of more involved game in crafting.
Definitely. I mean, we've talked about that before, but I definitely think that, like, for example, crafting, weapons and stuff is pretty lackluster.
Indeed, quite lackluster indeed.
Right. There's no like artifice.
Yeah, I also think there are certain classes of items that should just be somehow involved in making, like buckets and barrels.
Yeah.
I mean, buckets and barrels are pretty good amount of work to make in IRL.
Yep.
And then hey, you just click a button and have them. I do think that's
the game is much too easy and not grindy enough. That's my analysis.
Indeed. But of course, but I mean, the point being there should be some value to a bucket.
I don't know about buckets, but like I could see them being slightly more difficult to make. But I think the main point that I'd make is about swords.
Yeah, definitely, of course.
I think that those should be more involved. Like making a sword, your sword should have some sort of distinction. It shouldn't just be like any old sword.
Indeed.
Dolla X asks, what about moving away from permadeath? Make it so when knocked out you instantly teleport to Heartfire and add a new type of wounds when killed. I don't know. How do you feel about that, chat? How do you feel about that, Frederick? Isn't that the direction we've taken already?
I mean, why would we really want less permadeath?
I don't know.
Me neither.
He seems to think that's a good idea. Z777 asks, please add Chelidonium mages to heal warts. You keep adding new wounds but never new medicines. I think on warts specifically, I want them to be very annoying and hard to heal. But what I have
that's kind of the point with them.
Have considered is to make a mechanic where you can like cut them off and you get a nasty bleeding wound when doing so, like a really nasty one. And there's a
50% chance of remaking the wart.
Exactly. Cedarx asks, remove travel awareness, please. No, we're not going to do that. But there is some case to be made that I know that they've complained about, like, for PvP purposes, that they can't like gather up the crew for PvP purposes on account of like travel being strange and awkward. Right. That was obviously a lot easier in Legacy when they could just zip zap across the map willy nilly.
Indeed.
And I could imagine them perceiving that to be beneficial for their.
Yeah, sure. I can see there being some kind of case to be made. Not sure what to think about that, to be honest.
Fuck them all, basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't see there being a case to be made, though.
Yeah, sure. Me too. Get good. I mean, I think one of the more important things is that we're preventing people from zip zapping too much. Partly because it's just ugly, right? Like fast travel is intrinsically ugly, right?
It is. But then again, I can also see there being some kind of case to be made for. I mean, not making PvP encounters horribly difficult to arrange.
Hey, can you make steel crucibles? The bars function like eggs from a coop, so they keep their percentage a while after you pull them out by accident. Thank you. Maybe get good is the answer there. FatCamp90 says it's not that hard to remove a wart, blah blah blah. Yeah,
indeed, that is my position as well. I mean, if anything, I kind of think that roots are a bit too OP.
No, he's talking about it in real life. He's talking about it in real life. He claims that it's easy to remove a wart in real life. I don't know about that, dude.
I mean, old people have tons of warts everywhere.
Do they?
Well, perhaps not warts, but blemishes and stuff.
No, those are liver spots, though.
Perhaps.
Those are not warts.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
completely
sure.
different thing.
Sure.
Come on, man, get with the program. Jeez.
I mean, I'm sure it's easy nowadays with local anesthetics and sterile knives and.
Fat Camp 90 says if you remove the root of the wart, it won't grow back. That is false, sir. Warts do not have roots. That is a myth. So, Kimasia says, I love Permadeath. It's just that there are almost no reasons to go out of our village once you have your industry settled up. We need more global events. More global events when? Yeah, I mean, I'm tempted to agree. Like, if people had fun fighting over the meteor, and that actually worked for once, I think that's awesome news. I mean, I suppose it matters because of reasons, but that wouldn't really be present later on.
Well, I mean, I think one of the main reasons we have had some trouble implementing these kinds of global events is the issue of making items that actually matter while not being broken.
Yeah, which is... That being said, I mean, I think there are... like, let's say there was an item, like, if you consumed it, you finished the credo,
Yeah, but isn't that exactly broken?
Is it?
I mean, finish the entire credo, that's pretty broken, I think.
Is it? Are you sure? I mean, doesn't that depend? Like, isn't there some like, what if that was a meteor type event, and you got one, and you have one of these every 2 weeks? I mean, can't any like effect like that be balanced to work?
Perhaps, I'm not sure.
I mean,
perhaps I shouldn't exclude it.
If effectively, that's like one person getting one extra credo on the server every 2 weeks. Is that really?
Yeah,
a
except
problem?
it would obviously be the same person every time.
I'm not 100% on that. Like, maybe it would be, but I don't know. Maybe. I think one of the problem with those effects is that they have a tendency perhaps to snowball. Like, when you start winning, you just keep winning. I don't know about that. I don't know really how that plays out. But Zented69 says global bosses and dungeon spawns. Yeah, I mean...
Well,
yeah.
How would a global dungeon spawn differ from the dungeon spawns that we currently have? I do wonder.
That they would be announced and that they would be... I mean, we discussed this when we implemented dungeons. Like announcing them to the local area or announcing them to...
I mean, that being said, also, isn't there a case to be made for more local events as opposed to global?
Sure, presumably could be. Like, but the one wouldn't necessarily exclude the other.
And I guess there's also the case to be made that if it actually matters, then it will be global anyway, due to people actually communicating.
Yeah, yeah, that too. But I mean, I think there are effects like that you could dream up that would, actually be...
Yeah, I'm just saying that it is a bit of a problem, at least.
Sure, definitely. I mean, it's not trivial. Yeah, I mean, localized resources were added in an attempt to, but I think they suck too much. I don't think they matter enough for people to really care. And I think there are several problems. They can be walled off right now. That's a problem. They can be harvested by shitty alts. That's a problem.
That's a problem. But isn't there also really the case that there are so many of them that no one is really lacking in them anyway?
Probably, but the reason people aren't lacking, I mean, there's a problem perhaps with supply, but I mean, there's also a problem with demand. Like, the demand for them isn't that great.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure that's true. I mean, I think there will always be a demand for ancient roots, for instance.
Sure,
I think there is
some
a demand for salt.
Sure, there's some demand for it, but like it's not.
But I mean, I think the supply is vastly outrunning that demand.
I think even if the supply were significantly lower, I think that people still wouldn't go out of their way to get it. I mean, I think that's the point. I think, like, I'm not sure a village would find it worthwhile to pick a fight with another village over, like, fighting over salt. It doesn't matter that much. Right?
Well, I mean, it's a matter of scale too. I mean, you had a fight over salt. Or was it rock crystals? Or
those were rock crystals, yeah. Yeah, sure. No, to be fair, that's true. Last world I did have a little kerfuffle. a man from whom I took rock crystals. More musical instruments and different kinds of carpets when?
Carpets? Oh, carpets, right.
Arguably, the carpets should be at least distinguished by cloth type. So that could be. A lot of the local resources are things that can pop up or fade away over time in real life. Maybe just make them despawn and spawn, but have a pool of how many of each type there are. So have the resource point nodes themselves spawn and despawn. Maybe. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Perhaps. I don't know. I might not hate that idea.
Could be fun if some of them did at least.
Think about it, please.
I mean,
yeah.
not all of them would have to do it. Like some of them could.
Yeah, for sure. Could be a thing.
That could, like, if we wanted to get rid of the present claims, at least that could be at least a temporary implementation. Byron Demores says when whale dungeon and how did it should like. How did it should like.
How did it should like.
How did it should like.
I don't think whale dungeons are the first priority of dungeons, at least.
No, I think bee dungeons are on top of my list.
Indeed.
I want to do a bee dungeon.
Yeah, and the walrus dungeon is also pretty enticing, I think.
Sure.
And also the snow dungeon.
True. Yeti.
And the Yeti dungeon, indeed.
The Yeti dungeon. And what else is there? Like, I could see a case to be made for a viper pit type dungeon. That could be fun.
Perhaps. Or even a rats.
Yeah, rat hole. Hole in the wall.
Yes.
That could be awesome, actually. Just no further explanation. Just a rat hole in your house suddenly, and you can go in. You can enter it, and with no questions asked, you can just enter it, just like a normal portal, and suddenly you're inside the rat world.
Is Tummeliten an internationally known story, you think?
I think so. I'm not sure what it's called in English though.
Indeed.
Google it. James 12 asks, is better combat animations on the way? Not on the way in any formal sense, but it could be a good idea. I think we discussed. Did I promise that last stream? So easy.
Probably. I seem to remember that you might have promised this for the last 2 streams. Actually,
that's not probably true. Actually, promises, but no delivery. Seasons with real meaning when, like winter slowing farming and making it so you have to protect from cold. Yeah, I mean we discussed that earlier. It's definitely on our we're on the brink of perhaps plunging into an implementation of seasons. Like we're gonna do something bigger at some point. So.
And seasons is a prime candidate at least.
Yeah, definitely. So. Squirrel dungeon. When you chop down a tree, there's a chance that the stump will be hollow, opening up into the Not a terrible idea.
A rodent dungeon.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I don't even have swimming. I don't even have swimming, yo. Now I do. Sand Fleas dungeon.
Yeah.
As you can see, the possibilities are endless. So. I don't know how much do you guys like dungeons? Are they fun? Or do you like them? Or should we?
Yeah, I mean, I can't somewhat help but wonder just how meaningful it is to add new dungeon types.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind making new dungeons. It's kind of fun, but at the end of it, I wonder if we have really made enough difference for it to be worth the time.
They're kind of similar. like running a beaver dungeon is pretty much a very similar experience to running an ant dungeon or whatever. I mean, I don't know. There's so much stuff. It's hard to do them justice, really, because there's so much stuff you could be adding to them.
Yeah, exactly. Like we could be spending 2 or 3 times the time on each other.
Yeah, dungeon. I mean, like you know, I add maybe like what 5-6 pieces of props to to each dungeon is what I've added, and we could easily like add 30 pieces of props
exactly.
to each dungeon, and that would arguably be really cool, because I think one of the fun parts is running in and seeing all the cool props that are in the dungeon and shit. So, but that also like there also feels like there's a bit of diminishing returns on on adding more than. Like, this is a thing where, I sometimes feel that we should be more people working on the game. Like,
yeah, exactly. It is, and adding dungeons is really one of the main examples of something where the game would really benefit on more people working on it.
Yeah, it would be really easy to just isolate that off into a highly separated, work task, and just have gnomes working on that.
Exactly.
That's why you boys need to shop in the store more, so we can get gnomes on making crazy dungeon. When Kraken will be added to the game, XD, asks Byron. Well, good question. I mean, they're taking down the sperm whales now, so perhaps a Kraken could be. Whoa! Well consider. Oh, whoa! This is a well consider boat. The will consider boat from hell. Food satiation, vegetables 0%. Will consider. Goodness, quite an elaborate troll here.
Isn't that so?
Goodness me.
Thank you for buying a sketch.
What is this? I don't even. I'm being blocked by the will consider.
It's just a prank, bro.
Iron Gate of Vegetable Ninjas is requesting your oath of allegiance. Do you swear? Sure. It's like the Freemasons.
What does this oath entail?
Exactly. You swear loyalty to your brethren of the craft? No, I think I'll pass. Thank you. Oh goodness, I'm being chased by the vegetable ninjas. Dorkins, will consider. It's hilarious. Okay, boys, take me for a ride. Show me the world. Show me the world, boys. Show me the world. What is it? The song from Titanic, like the scene where
right.
on the helm. It should be possible to take that pose. Titanic pose for Titanic pose for tonight. Damn straight, Titanic pose for does that mean that you allow an idea of more people working on the game? I don't know. Depends on the circumstance. Thoughts on cave farming, asks Zented69. I actually had the idea to add farmable cave mushrooms a while back. I think that could be fun. What do you think about cave farming? Is it too much Dwarf Fortress for you?
I mean, I don't necessarily mind it. I just question, these kinds of things when, I mean, it's kind of this cool thing that you would like to see, but then when everyone does it, it's not so cool anymore.
Right.
Not sure. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily mind it.
Come on, you little furs, show me the world. Show me the world, god damn it. Can't teleport if you're not with that many people. Ouch. Well, I think they're trying to teleport.
But why would the number of people be?
I don't know. Probably because, I don't know, because I can't teleport.
But in that case, you would have gotten an error message about it.
But I'm out.
You have gotten an error message about it.
No. Try teleport. Should I have gotten an error message?
You should get an error message if you can't. If it's your fault that the Knorr can't teleport.
I got a sausage. I want to eat it. Cave farming, yes, but need credo and new skill to do it. Perhaps that could be fun. Why not have a content creating contest? You post the items you'd want designed, and people submit different attempts.
I don't know, man.
I don't know about that one. I think there's okay, so my art style is perhaps not the best, and I'm not the best artist, but I think
It's at least somewhat consistent.
Exactly. I think it's important that the game art style be somewhat consistent, and so that's one knock I have against that.
But it's also like, you know, like making Haven into a community project entails weird incentives, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I'm not too keen on that, but yeah, I don't know. Your art style is honestly what makes this game, and maybe aside from the character faces. Well, that's flattering. Thank you. Very nice of you.
Aside from the character faces, but you made the character faces too.
Yeah, but he's saying that the character faces are ugly, and
but that's just wrong.
Part
I
of
mean,
sure.
the character faces are arguably the best, the best part of the art style.
Best part of the art. These dorks are pushing me, sir. I'm being pushed by the vegetable ninja.
Oh, I can't imagine.
I'm being pushed around. Oh no. Oh, whatever will I do? Whatever will I do, dorks? Jesus Christ. Bye, y'all.
Have the smite god command.
Yeah, I should knock them out hard, so that they pay the price for their villainous deeds. New trailer 2019. No, we already made a new trailer.
Yeah, we already made a trailer 2019.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, man! How many? We'd be doing nothing but making trailers if it weren't for you. Will we ever get a high-res texture pack and better models for those of us without toaster ovens? I mean,
the thing is, high-res textures. I mean, to even have some kind of use for them, you'd have to use unsupported cameras and whatnot.
We can't have that.
Indeed.
Can only be against that. You're a cheater. Shame on you, says both Sir Zandos and H&H Granger, yeah?
Indeed.
Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged. Digzol says, thank you for blessing us with the magnificent creature the shark cat is.
Well, those are some kind words.
Yeah, definitely. There was a thread on the forums, like, list of things that are, out of theme for the game or whatever. And so basically, listed, the little Japanese waving cat and all that.
Oh, I see.
All the slinky and all the silly stuff that we've added to the game.
Right.
And also like made a note like every shop hat ever basically.
Exactly.
And
but that's kind of the point of it.
That's kind of the point of them. But it was like I read the thread and it was like the thread was kind of tongue in cheek. It was just
of course.
It didn't mean anything by it. I didn't get the that
yeah, of course.
impression.
I would assume so.
But it was kind of like I did feel like a pang of bad conscience or whatever for having added all the silly things. I was like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have added all the the Japanese waving cat and shit. Maybe that's a bit too much. Maybe that's a little bit over the top.
Perhaps. I don't know. I mean, can't really say I mind the slinky or the cat.
I'm just like maybe the effect of several of those silly things compounds though.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's not like there isn't the case.
Like at some point, doesn't it just become Clown World?
At some point, for sure. At some point, for sure.
So it was a thank you for making that thread. Whoever made it, I think it was Ants who made the thread.
I see.
So I thought that was a good thread.
Sure.
It was a bit of a. I reflected upon it. I thought. So Zando says you broke my car. No, I didn't. I didn't fucking touch it. So.
Of course you touched it. You sat in it.
Yeah, but surely that didn't break it.
I wouldn't think so. Well, I mean, you never know, but.
Why do only wolves get families? Why do you hate other animals? Please make all animals in packs with babies and mommies, with also super hard alpha males and females. Yeah, it's a pretty good idea. I think at least the Aurochs and the Mouflons should be in packs. They used to be in everything.
Sure, and I mean also the deers and the chickens should have some kind of pack logic.
Definitely, the chickens should scatter when one of them is lost.
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain. I'm actually pretty convinced that the chickens should not just be standing there, but dumb little meatbag.
You're crazy.
Allowing them to be picked up. Altiog says wolves don't have alphas.
Who cares?
Exactly, who cares? It's enough of a trope that I'm willing to entertain it for the sake of the trope. Why can we attack, asks Merbier, why can we attack trespassers on our P claim without criminal acts but not on our village claims? I don't know.
Good question, perhaps?
Well Consider says, if you ever want to see your dugout again, you'll add eggplant to the game.
Oh no!
Oh, my dugout. I spent all this time finding it. Randomly tossed aside in the woods.
Don't deal with terrorists.
Jesus Loves You Still asks a pertinent question, at least. Similar to how you once put up test servers for combat movement changes, can we have a test server for siege ideas?
Yeah, we spoke about that idea and decided pretty quickly against it.
Yeah, we pretty much we considered that idea. And
tossed it right out.
Tossed it right out. On the basis that no one
These kinds of test servers never make sense because they're not testing a realistic situation.
They're not testing a realistic scenario. There's no way we can test anything that feels remotely meaningful, really, and it's just no one is going to care. People are going to use the test server for things completely unrelated to testing the siege thing. They're going to be in
by this
trolling, building shit.
By this time we've been running test servers for all kinds of things, and it's never worked out.
Never really felt particularly meaningful. So the Eternal Alpha, unfortunately, is hot.
It's upon you.
Yeah, it is upon you. Hot and heavy. So
Not saying it wasn't a good question, but there's your answer.
Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't be a realistic test. People wouldn't be building realistic bases. People wouldn't be
spending time in building bases.
No, so there would be nothing nothing really to attack, nothing to defend. Yeah, no one would care, quite simply. So yeah. Big ass pyramid trolling. Give us nut bread. Yeah, nuts as a variable.
There is nut bread.
No.
Yes, there is. The nut crackers. the flatbread. Oh, but perhaps those are seeds.
Those are seeds.
Sure, right, sure.
So he's talking about nuts, like hazelnuts and almonds and all that good stuff.
And other kinds of nuts.
Exactly. Since we've added castrations, that would actually be fun.
Indeed.
If they were
nut bread. It takes bollocks.
It takes bollocks. That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Any kind of nut.
Exactly. Yes. It has to be made. It has to be thus. Thank you for suggesting. Poop.
Where would we have been without that suggestion?
Yeah, exactly. That was the best suggestion today. Raising the level. Cheese on toast when? Cheese as a variable ingredient could be fun.
Yeah, but not for anyone, but not for the one who asked you to formulate the variable effects for every cheese. Just saying.
You tripping, dog.
Not perhaps exactly looking forward to it.
But couldn't we try to find a generation algorithm for them?
Perhaps.
Now we're talking. Let us make snake oil. Snake oil would be a good idea. I think snake oil.
For sure.
Snake oil.
Clown World?
Is snake oil Clown World or what?
Perhaps not.
No, I don't think. No, I mean snake oil. I think that's more fun. Let's make snake oil that heals wounds only if we have strong will and low psyche. So being gullible, I think, and really
Yeah,
wanting to
I
believe in
assume
it.
so, but I mean, perhaps rather it could add itself as a treatment wound that just does nothing.
Exactly. Now we're talking. Just rub. What can be applied to anything? Works against anything. This will heal your back pain, your toothache, everything. Cures anything.
Oiled up real well.
More puns in it. Turtles could be fun. We looked into turtles. Swamp turtles. I'll make a note of swamp turtles. Swamp turtle. Could be just a small animal that you can pick off,
for sure,
and it'll just bite your finger off.
Indeed.
So they want shields, metal shields, kite shields, banana, cocoa. No bananas, but
yeah, but that's kind of part of the. There really is. There should be something to do about melee combat in general, because I really feel that the variety of weapons and shields and stuff is lacking.
Word up. I have to agree with that.
I have no immediate suggestion as to what. But I mean, generally speaking, I think weapons and shields and stuff and equipment in general should add much more to the game than they currently do. Indeed,
should arguably when we think about combat, should perhaps actively design it around.
We should.
Around the melee weapons.
We should. So is that a commitment to a new combat system?
Been burned pretty hard on that one, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we spent like a month at least on the last.
At least, indeed. It's busy.
Yes, that's excellent. By the way, why do we make beehives from larvae but ant farms from ant queens, empresses? As it should also be with beehives.
Well, it should. The current implementation is a bit of a placeholder.
Yeah.
We do want to make a more full-fledged beehive implementation. Perhaps that should be a thing.
Yeah, definitely. Like smoking the bees and collecting the whole.
Yeah, and then maintaining a hive and with the workers and queens and drones and whatnot.
I was thinking that maybe bees should be a fluid. That could be fun.
I think there should be different kinds of bees at least. I mean, you should have to need the queen.
I mean, in real life, you just scoop up the entire swarm. The beehives swarm, and it's.
Well, I mean, perhaps you do, but when you build new hives, for instance, when you build new skeps, you obviously have to need a new queen for that.
You insert a whole swarm. What happens is that the beehive swarms at some point, splits off a new swarm.
Yes, sure.
You gather that and you put it into the new scap.
I just think there should be some room for some kind of fun mechanic where you maintain the various aspects of a swarm. Perhaps. Not sure, perhaps.
Petrified wood mechanic for turning wood into stone over extremely long waiting period by leaving it in swamp. That's a novel suggestion, at the very least.
Indeed.
How is petrified wood actually made? Like, is it left in swamps for eons and then turned?
I don't actually know. I don't really know the material qualities of it either. I mean, can you actually use petrified wood for things that would normally require stone?
Yeah, probably not. But peat from digging in the swamp's bogs. Peat could be fun.
For sure. The question is just what it would be used for.
Fuel.
I guess.
Could dig it up and burn it.
I guess.
Takes millions of years, typically found in red clay. Peat could be an alternate coal fuel. Yeah, that seems like a really bad idea.
Yeah, that seems like a totally bad idea.
Can we get hornets added?
Well, I mean, if you ask for hornets, then hornets you shall have.
Hornets managed to have this morning. your mic is fucked, it tells us. Echo just happened. Something with audio. Echo. We had this problem last time as well, I seem to recall.
Oh.
Yeah, there was some echo problem.
What kind of echo? I mean, like.
Fuck. Say something.
I don't know. Can you hear something?
No, can't hear shit. It's better now, right? Yeah, I think it's better now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All good.
I think, yeah, all good. They're confirming that in the chat. We had a hiccup like this last time as well. Where it was like a strange.
Might have some
saying there was a crazy
remembrance.
All right, there shall be no remembrance of things past, as it says in the good book.
Did he just release Fireflies?
Would look like it. It's a nice little place you got going here. Hey, those are pretty cool.
Ah, cool.
Built them blue.
Indeed.
More seashells and sea glass for more jewelry options. What would you imagine?
What
do you mean by jewelry options? Would
like
you
gems?
like gems or? No, it's broken. Broken? As soon as we were talking about alternate coal fuel, the government started this.
Big electricity don't want anything of that.
Exactly.
It's like how they suppress the free energy machines over Unity.
You know it, man. You know, the government, man, has a car that runs on water, man. So you mean it's like an amphibious car? Seashells as gildable gems for your early game rings. Maybe.
Perhaps.
Maybe. Why millet is the only grain you can't put on a herbalist table? Because I couldn't be bothered to add millet to beer. We researched it a little bit, and
Did it seem like kind of a questionable thing?
yeah, it wasn't much of a thing. Like, it is a thing, but not much of a thing.
Indeed.
Was the impression.
Well, I mean, I guess what he's asking is why he can't use his usual quality mechanics with it.
Right, of course. Well, there's your answer, because we haven't bothered adding sprouting, because sprouting is, from our humble perspective, relevant to beer making.
Indeed.
So there's that. Maybe some amber on beaches for jewelry. You can only get amber from beaver dungeons right now.
Indeed. And I wouldn't want to change that, I think.
Right.
Unless we change what you get in the beaver dungeons instead, perhaps.
Yeah. What about pitch/tar from swamps? Maybe. I mean, tar is at least trivial to get. So.
I guess. There may not be a good reason against it.
A lumber mill that makes boards and blocks like the windmill does flour. How do you feel?
We've been discussing that, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any really terribly good argument against it.
No. Perhaps not.
If anything, I'd like to add a water mill as well as a windmill.
Right. So basically you can build that in any water then?
I guess so. Perhaps just rivers.
Sure. River tiles would make sense.
Indeed.
How much use is the mill really? Do people like use that extensively?
Good question, I guess, since they ask for it.
Apparently, but like, do you cut so many boards that would make a meaningful difference in your life?
Well, perhaps it would just be fun.
Yeah, true enough. Brew mead. Yeah, mead could be fun.
Mm-hmm.
For show, yo. Whoa, water wheels. How will that affect water traversability? Presumably not at all if you have to
Okay.
build the water mill.
Partly on land.
Exactly. Can we have crop disease added to the game so that if you're unlucky, you might have a crop cycle wiped out due to it, or reduced quality quantity return?
Now we're talking.
Now the good ideas start trickling in.
I imagine if you walk through it, you might get infected. I mean, would infectious diseases be fun?
That's a good question. Would infectious diseases be fun?
I mean, it would kind of be fun, but it would perhaps only be fun until people start cultivating disease alts that just carry every disease and put them in the community fair.
Little lepers who walk around.
Well, I mean, if they carry their rattles, that could still be fun, but.
Sage, wild mustard, chaga, rocket, chicory, sunchoke, thistle. Step up your forageable game, man.
Perhaps. Chicory, though, isn't that a tree?
No, that's hickory.
Ah, right. What is chicory then?
You'd have to Google that, man. I made a note of that sentence. Thank you for all those nice herbal suggestions. What are airmen, swools, and monoliths for, dude? They're for kingdoms, bro.
Indeed.
Kingdom relevant. How do you feel about that implementation, by the way, people running kingdoms?
Yeah, that would be interesting to know.
Yeah, for sure.
Are they good? Are they fun? Are they meaningless?
Interesting, good, fun, meaningless. Please comment below.
Memories of pain spread like disease already, indeed.
That's true.
That's kind of up to you to decide, though.
Wolf King 6116 says, I think kingdoms are pretty cool. It's certainly, yeah, sure. But how do you feel about...
I mean, swords and monoliths, specifically.
What's the question? HerpDerp03 says, I'd like to become autistic in-game and to be able to spread autism through Hearthlands. So implement vaccines then? Vaccines when? Basically the real question. Pandemic mechanics would be awesome. Would they really be awesome? I'm not so sure. I mean, maybe if you didn't know that you were infected somehow.
Perhaps.
Like maybe there's a quarantine time, like the disease breaks out after you've stopped spreading it.
Perhaps.
So that you spread it only when you're unaware of it.
Perhaps that's kind of realistic anyway, as far as I'm aware.
That could be perhaps interesting.
Perhaps. That would probably be more interesting. I mean, then again, it's not like the people cultivating disease also wouldn't be aware that they're spreading diseases, though. But
yeah, presumably. No. I know they had a situation in World of Warcraft where they like had a pandemic.
Yeah, I've heard that story too.
Where it was like some buff that escaped from a boss fight.
No, right.
So, and basically started infecting people all over the server, and people started spreading it. Kind of interesting. Wolf King says the addition of monoliths and trees to kingdom requirements was a good idea. It gives kingdoms reasons to actually expand beyond feeling like they just should. If anything, I can see them being actually fought over as resources. That would be fun.
It would be good if that's the case.
Yes. Hi, hello guys, says Kebermek. Jam, ciders, and herbal tinctures, alcohol when? give us a reason to raise berries and fruit quality a little more.
I mean, I guess the real question is what the drunkenness buff would, how it would work. I mean, I imagine like your character suddenly deciding that he needs to take a bath, naked probably, in the deep part of the ocean.
That's what happens to me every time. Every damn time I have a drink, that's exactly how it ends. Without fail. Alright, chat, we're coming up on 2 hours now, 5 minutes left to go. So if you have any final awesome questions that you want to feel like you have to ask, or if it's something that occurs to you that you haven't frequented the store much recently, you feel like you absolutely have to have that latest hat that we added, then maybe now could be the time for you to consider hitting up the store and buying. So that aside,
don't delay, buy today.
Exactly. Don't cheat yourself. Treat yourself.
You snooze, you lose.
Early bird catches the worm. Can we see sharks added to the game? Yes. Irish loan sharks. No. Yeah, sharks, definitely. I mean, there aren't that many dangerous sharks.
Melee combat credo, I can't see that going wrong in any way.
No.
I mean, it's a good question. Arguably, there should be combat credos.
Definitely, but people are complaining when they're mandatory.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to have to do the credo, man. Don't make me do the credo, bro. That's what they tell me when you do that.
I mean, I don't know. Perhaps with more varied melee combat, more varied weapons, or something like that. Perhaps combat credos could be more localized in their effect somehow.
Potentially.
At such a point, it could perhaps be more meaningful.
Yep.
Not that actually means anything concrete.
No. Sharks are already added. They are hats. Omnipotent O says, when will bows be usable again? Didn't we buff them the last thing we did? Wasn't that?
No, I actually think we debuffed them.
Yeah, we're on the nerf part of the sign curve.
Indeed. So is that to say that bows are currently useless again?
It is kind of crazy that they oscillate between overpowered and completely useless.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
It feels like it should be easier to find just a happy medium where they're okay.
One would think so. Not sure why that is.
Yeah. Herb Derp says, where did Loftar get that quality 1000 bow? I want one too.
Right, that that thing. That was...
The man had a little bit of an experience. A close encounter of the third kind with players.
Well, except I didn't really have that encounter. I just managed to forget my character logged in. So that wasn't particularly skillful.
With the quality 1000 bow on it.
So that was real nice work right there. I'm proud. I really want to thank my family and my friends and everyone who supported me. and quality 1000 arrows, right? Indeed.
The guy just felt he had to spawn them on his character and just left it. Fortunately, we were able to buy them back from the concerned people, the gentleman who had picked them up. Alright guys, as usual, this was fun. We're going to do another stream in April, or at least I'm going to do another stream in April. We'll see if we'll have L-Dog here on. He's been a good boy. He's been on I think it's 4 or 5 streams now, hasn't it? You've done...
Surely, only 4 at least.
You did January, February, March, you did December, you did?
Yes, but I don't think I did November.
You did not do November, okay. So we'll see about that. But this was a lot of fun. We're gonna
be kind to the siege system.
Yeah, be kind to the siege system. Give us some feedback on that, and because if you don't give us any feedback, we might just go ahead and implement it. So if you don't shoot us down, we might actually just be crazy enough to do it. Jesus Loves You still asks more female hairstyles. Potentially asks another question: more than 2 genders? Never. There are only 2 genders. You remember, boys, there are boys and girls. There are only 2 genders, and you can't change. It's impossible. Ingloriously Bad says, please look into melee combat and additional gear shields. Could consider that. Will consider.
Yeah, the problem again just being what effects they have.
Yeah, and just combat in general is a huge topic. So.
Indeed.
Additional shields is like the smallest part of the combat system, it feels, I have to say. So yeah, this was fun. And we'll do another stream in April, and yeah, stay safe in game and out of game, and much love to all of you. I hope you're still enjoying World 11 it is, right?
Indeed.
And yeah, we're had a couple of small patches. We're gonna try to hopefully deliver on some bigger, more thicker, more lit content within the somewhat mid to near future.
Well, I mean, a new siege system is it's at least it's at least mid-size content for sure.
You'd have to argue, and so yeah, right on. Stay safe in game, out of game. Jesus loves you. Praying for you all every day. Love you so much. Have fun in there. Have a good night. Sleep tight when you do, depending on what your time zone is. Eat your veggies or don't. Not sure they're good for you. Yeah. Take care, guys.
And all that.
And all that. Take care, guys. Good night to all of you, and we're on the forums if you need us. And yeah,
have fun.
Blah blah blah. Have fun. Enjoy the game. Thank you for being with us and chatting. It was fun as always, and we'll do it again in April. Toodles, boys and girls. Toodles. I'll see you later. Take care. Hey. Oh, sorry. Y'all have a good night now. Bye.